Hello and welcome to Blender. If you don't know, Blender is a 3D software where you can model, sculpt, animate and render. You can do all sorts of things. And the best thing about it is that it's free and it's actually pretty easy to use once you get to know it. In this video, I'm going to be running through an installation guide of how to install Blender and also just a basic tour of Blender and all its functions. If you already know that sort of thing, you can move on to the next video where I just jump into a tutorial straight away. So straight off the bat, you're just going to want to go onto the Blender website. It's blender.org. You can just look up Blender on the internet and it should be one of the first things that come up. So you click that, download Blender, and depending on what type of computer you have, you'll install a different one. Most people have Windows, and Windows is the default, so all you do is just click download Blender. But if not, you can just click on one of these. You want to click on the installer because that's going to be the thing that actually installs it. All this stuff is just other, you don't really need to know that. So download it, and yep, it's just gonna take a little while to download. Now that Blender has finished downloading, you're just going to double click this file. I'm just using Firefox, so it looks a bit different. This will just be at the bottom banner if you're using Chrome. So you'll double click it and a warning will come up. That's fine. And now it's just preparing to install. Okay. Now you got the setup wizard set up. It's pretty straightforward. You just click next. And now that it's finished, you just click exit and you're good to go. Okay, now that it's launching, we just wait. Okay, easy. So quick setup, of course, language, English for most people. Then the rest is all fine, so you just click next. And you want to add a new file. We're just going to do general. And there we go. Once you hop into Blender, you're automatically just going to get this cube. Now, before you do anything, I highly recommend that you have a mouse if you don't already, preferably one with the middle mouse button, because when you hold the middle mouse button, you can pan around. And when you hold shift while clicking the middle mouse button, you can move side to side in any order. It just makes life much easier. When you left click, you select on an object if you haven't already. And then when you right click, you get all these options, which I'll explain more in detail. Now, just say you don't really want a cube, you can add in different objects and edit them later. So you can go Shift A, this is an important command for adding objects, and you get a ton of options. Now, the most important ones for modeling is the mesh, and I usually recommend working with a plane or a cube, but for now, just to show you around all the commands, I'm just going to use the monkey. It is called Suzanne, and it's just the placeholder mesh. So at the moment we're in object mode, and there's a couple of different modes. The most important object mode and edit mode. Scope mode is also pretty important, but we won't go over that today. For now, we'll just do object and edit mode. So object mode is basically just for optimizing the scene, so you can click on different objects, you can add different objects and edit them individually, you can move them around. So if you want to move them, you just click the object and you click G and you can move them around like that. When moving an object or editing anything, it's important to use the axes if you want to get a specific measurement. So the Z-axis goes up and down, the X-axis goes side to side, which is the red one, and the green axis is the Y-axis. So just say I go on this face, you can see it like this, and you can click G and move it any way you want. If you want it just to go up and down and not go side to side, you can click Z and it will be stuck to this axis, and then you can move it up like that. And that works for any way. So if I click G and then Z, you can go up and down, or G and X, for example, and it goes side to side. The next command that I'm going to show you is the rotate command, which is just R. So when you click R, you can rotate the monkey around. Also, if you don't know, Control Z is undo. So again, if you want to move it in a specific way, you click on one of these faces and then you can click R and rotate around. A cool thing you can do just quickly, if you want it just rotate 90 degrees, for example, you literally just type in 90 and then it will rotate 90 degrees just like that. So if you want to make your object smaller or larger, you click S, which is short for scale, and you can do it like that. You can also type in how much you want to scale it by. So if you click 1, that should scale it up by 100%. If you scale it down 0.5, should go down by 50%. So yeah, the next few commands are more for edit mode. So edit mode effectively is when you want to edit specific vertices of an object. And a vertex is literally just a point like this. So if I click G and I move that around, you can sort of warp the model in any way you'd like. So there's a couple of different options in edit mode. You've got the vertex mode, so that's when you click specific edges and you can edit those. There's edge mode, which is up here, and you can click certain edges. If you hold shift and click a few of them and select a few of them, you can edit them all at the same time. And then you also got face mode, which edits the specific faces. Now, one cool thing you can do is extrude. So if I'm in face mode, you click this and extrude, you can go up and down like this. And it adds more, it just stretches them out. Same thing with vertices. Vertices, usually it just extrudes a single line. So if you're going to do that, I recommend you hold two of them and click E. Again, you can do it along the Z or the X or the Y axis like that, and it will give you a straight line like this. The next thing I'm going to show you is fill. So if you want, if you have a shape and there's no face on it, like this, you can select all the edges like this, holding shift and selecting them all, and click F for fill. And there you go, you got a brand new face like that. If you want to select all of the vertices, you can click A, and that will, for all, and that will select them all, and you can move it around or do whatever you want when you do that. The next part of the tour is all these other options, which I'll go into more detail in another tutorial, but basically this is just the layout section. So the layout is mostly just for modeling and just organizing your scene. The modeling is basically just edit mode, but I just recommend going into layout and doing it like that. In my opinion, that's easier, but doesn't really make more difference. Sculpting is basically making more organic objects. You can play around with these. These all have different options and it kind of says what they do. So clay kind of makes it act like clay. You need a lot more vertices to do that though. You need a much more moldable object, and I'll explain that in another video. UV editing, this is quite complicated. It's got to do with textures. Again, I'll explain that later. Same with texture painting. Shading effectively is when you get those cool images that act with light
So for example, I'll show you right now. So it should render the light quite well like that. Animation is another element of Blender, which I'm not really going to go too much detail in these tutorials simply because I'm not that knowledgeable on it and it's quite difficult to get the hang of, but maybe in future I will. Rendering, again, it's rendering, similar of shading, and then these sort of things are more programmy sort of things, and they are more for like animation and that kind of thing. The next thing is the modifiers. So you can do lots of different things, such as mirroring the object. You can make it, there's the Boolean modifier, which if you intersect two objects, you can subtract the shape from one. Solidify, you can bevel the edges and that kind of thing. And in the next video, I'm going to show you how to make some things and using this. So that's a basic tour of Blender. Hope you found this helpful and thank you for listening to my tutorial.